All right, cool. Looks like we're recording and the sound and everything should be on. Um, Let me go ahead and get our PowerPoint set up for here. So yeah, today is kind of a bummer because it was supposed to be the first day going in person. So um, that didn't happen. So because of the weather, and at first I'm like, am I overreacting to the weather? But now I went to pick up my daughter from school, and sure enough, the weather is like it's really slippery out. So I think we made the best decision um, to uh, to stay in and not um, not have class in person because like my daughter's school's 3 miles away, and it was bad just driving the 3 miles to her school and then back to where we live. Um, so it's probably for the best that we didn't have class in person because I'd rather just kind of everyone be safe and everything and not not drive the road conditions are going to be bad. Oh, sorry. Just realized my volume wasn't up very much, so hopefully everyone can hear me. So yeah, as I was saying, um, the road conditions are really bad. I'm kind of bummed that we didn't have class in person, but it's kind of for the best because just driving around the little bit that I did today, um, the car was kind of sliding around a little bit. So it's better we're just kind of doing it online today. That way we don't have to worry about anyone's safety. Let me go ahead and do a screen share here. Um, I don't know why it's taking forever for the PowerPoint to open. Hmm. All right, let me go. I'll just go into the my actual file in the computer and pull it up that way. I don't know why I can't get it to open um, off of Canvas. It downloaded it over here, but it seems like it doesn't want to open. Here we got it open now though. Let's see. Um, all right, so this week is week 7 for this class. Uh, Today we're gonna kind of go over organizing papers and writing essays and all that kind of fun stuff today. So here you have this is kind of like a brainstorming activity that sometimes writers will do where sometimes you write like the main idea you have and then kind of branch it all off, and it looks kind of chaotic, and it's just to kind of get all your ideas out on paper. So let's see, some learning outcomes for today is explore the common types of papers and essays we're going to write while in college, differentiate between the use of each type of paper or essay, break essay writing down into the major sections of a paper, and determine the organizational structure of an essay and why it's ordered that way. So for an overview, we'll kind of go over 10 types of essays. We won't do the in-class activity and discussion because we're online again. We'll kind of look at essay formula and registration. We won't really talk too much about because as far as I know, they haven't tried to open up registration yet. So which two considerations are at the forefront of every document that we'll ever create? So whenever you go to write anything, you kind of want to think, okay, who's my audience and what's the purpose? So even in fiction, when I go to write a book, sometimes I think, okay, who's going to be the audience? Is the audience going to be uh, like other scholarly people, which for me it almost never is because I don't like writing scholarly articles. Is the audience going to be I write a lot of history stuff, so is the audience going to be historians or just people that have an interest in history? If you're writing like a fiction story, like one time I wrote a novel, and the audience, I didn't want to make it too young to where it was like elementary or anything. So the audience for that one I kind of felt was like junior high, because it was kind of more for kids, but I don't feel like it didn't have any pictures or anything. Like it was a novel, so I feel like elementary would have been too young. High school, I think, would have been too old. So kind of like the audience for that one was junior high. Um, and you want to think about the purpose, like a lot of essay writing and everything. And the purpose will be um, would be a lot of times it's either to try and argue a point, there might be a topic where there's like kind of two sides to the issue, and you're arguing for the one side, so to kind of convince people or to persuade them. That could be another purpose, or sometimes it's just informative. So you got to kind of these two things you always kind of got to ask yourself when you start out writing anything. Okay, yeah, there's all 10. I'm like, I don't want to go too far and then skip the slide and then have to come back. Um, so I'm like, well, I'll just count and make sure I have all 10 here. Okay, so uh, some of these you'll probably write at one time or another in college. First one's a descriptive essay. Describes details of the subject. Um, so it's kind of like how it says, it's a descriptive essay. So you're just including a lot of details in there. There's like a definition essay that kind of focuses on definition of the subject. It's a higher level than a dictionary. So you're not just writing like a 5-page dictionary entry. You explain what it is, how people perceive it, and what's associated with it, etc. Uh, a compare and contrast essay. This you'll probably encounter a lot in college. Not sure so much in business majors, but if you take a history course, well, at least I do when I teach history, is I'll have them do a compare and contrast, like compare and contrast Sparta with Athens, or compare and contrast. I'm teaching a ancient history course at another college right now, so last week we did compare and contrast ancient Chinese civilization with ancient Egypt. So a lot of times you'll have like a compare and contrast essay um, in college. After college, you probably won't write them that often. There's a cause and effect essay, where a sequence of events and the result of it. It's kind of drawing a logical conclusion between the reasons of a certain event. Um, there's a narrative essay, where you're telling a story about a certain event in a person's life, that often uses first person perspective and kind of has emotional appeals and everything in it. The narrative essay, you almost always end up writing in college at one point or another, and sometimes they're just fun to write. Like a lot of times they call it a memoir, where you can kind of have like a short story, but it's like a autobiographical story. So narrative essays and memoirs often you'll end up writing, and they're kind of more fun, and they don't require a lot of research often because you're just writing about your own personal story. Process essay, similar to the cause and effect, but it more resembles an instruction manual, uh, chronological order of events and actions. So a process essay, in my day job, I write that a lot because every process that we do has to have documentation, so that if I win the lottery and don't go to work tomorrow, they have process documentation where a brand new person that started tomorrow can do my job. So I write a lot of that. And at another college, I teach business and technical writing. So there's a lot of process papers or process essays or instruction manuals that we write in there as part of business writing and technical writing. And then argumentative essay. So that often uses firm language, not harsh language, just kind of more firm, proved acts and accurate and vivid illustrations as evidence that your side of the argument is flawless. So you're trying to win this argument in this essay. Needs to contain anecdote or like anecdotal to the critics of your viewpoint. So basically you're trying to win an argument with that essay. So then there's a critical essay where it focuses on weak and strong features of something, gives characteristic of the subject to make the reader aware what you consider to be well done or not done effectively. So sometimes you'll write like a literary analysis where you're writing analysis on a book. So that's kind of like a critical essay where you're kind of saying what the strong points of the book are or what the weak points are. It's kind of like a Yelp review, basically, but a lot more formal and structured than a Yelp review. But basically, that's kind of what you're doing. You're just being critical of something and saying what they did good and what they did bad. So expository essay, that's where you do a lot of heavy research, both outside sources and your own experience, and your opinion is the foundation of the essay. And then there's a persuasive essay. So that's kind of opposite of the argumentative tone, where you're kind of just trying to convince a reader of your view. So they might have a different view or an open mind, and then you want to persuade them that to adopt your view on a subject. So, yeah, usually the videos don't play good in here, so I won't play the video. I don't know what it is in Zoom. It's like the videos, I can't get them to show up on screen when they're being played. So, what is your strategy? Who is your audience? And how would you outline your essay? Usually, most outlines are going to be kind of the same. But definitely you want to know who the audience and what the purpose is, and kind of like it's good to always have a strategy whenever you start a writing project of any kind. All right, so you want to kind of stick to the formula. So this is going to be the secret formula of how to write an essay. So the introduction, it's going to be like your first paragraph of the essay. You want to start with an attention getting statement. So a lot of times they call it a grabber, where you're grabbing the reader's attention. You want to provide some context for the topic you're about to talk about in the essay. And then finally, the last sentence of your introduction is going to be a thesis statement. So that kind of lets them know like what you're going to talk about. It kind of like the thesis statement lets a reader know, hey, this is my topic, and kind of like your stance or something on a topic. So it provides like a roadmap for the rest of the paper. And then like in a 5-paragraph essay, you have the introduction, you have 3 body paragraphs and a conclusion. So it doesn't have to be a 5-paragraph essay. It can be as many paragraphs as you want. The body paragraphs, you can have as many as you want. Introduction, usually it's only going to be 1 paragraph. Conclusion, usually only going to be 1 paragraph. The body of it, as much as you want. So in the body paragraphs, each one's kind of like its own thing. So you might have 3 paragraphs, you might have more than that, but each paragraph's kind of doing its own thing. So there'll be a topic sentence for that paragraph. There'll be support or basically research and quotes and stuff in the body of the body paragraph that kind of proves your thesis statement. You want to have an explanation in your own words, and then a concluding sentence. So each paragraph, each body paragraph is kind of like a mini essay within an essay, because you have a topic sentence. So it's kind of like your thesis for that paragraph. You're presenting a bunch of research, explaining in your own words, and then you kind of have like a conclusion sentence. And you want to kind of have like your last sentence for every paragraph should kind of do kind of a nice transition to the following first sentence of the next paragraph, so it's not really jarring for the reader. It has like a nice flow to it. And then in conclusion, don't give them any new information in the conclusion. You're just trying to wrap up all the stuff you just gave them. A lot of times in the body of your paragraph, it's like an info dump where you're just dumping a bunch of information at the reader to show them that your thesis statement is true and they should agree with it. So in the conclusion, don't hit them with any new information, because they're a lot of times they're still kind of trying to absorb all the information that you just gave them in the body paragraphs. So no new information. First sentence of your conclusion, you want to restate the thesis. So it'll be your thesis, but you kind of reword it. So you're not doing a new thesis. It's, nothing new is being presented. You just kind of reword the thesis a little bit, and kind of broaden back to your topic. Then you kind of want to kind of interpret what the reader's going to want. Is a reader going to think like, okay, so what? Or if your paragraph is about not using plastic bottles for bottled water, or using something more recyclable, they might be like, okay, so what do I do about it? I agree with you. What should I do? So you might want to have like a call to action depending on what the topic was of the paper. And then kind of like a clincher, so that'd be a powerful final line of your paper. So if it's something about recycling or the environment, like the final line, like the clincher could be like, we only get one planet Earth, so we have to take care of it. Like it could be something that kind of just, like a final, something really powerful to kind of close everything up. And then after that, you would just have your references. So depending on what type of style you're using, if it's MLA or APA, in here we're going to use APA. So sometimes it's just called references, sometimes it's called a works cited page, sometimes it's called a bibliography. Depends on which one you're using. In here, since it's a business school, we're going to be using APA a lot. So some things to consider. Why do we expect papers to be organized this way? These are really good questions if we have an in-person class. I don't think there's anyone in the Zoom right now. So, but some things to kind of consider when you're watching the video later is, why do we expect papers to be organized this way? What are the benefits? Are there any negatives? What happens when you turn essay writing into an 11th hour endeavor? I think we've all done that. How does formulaic writing intersect with creativity? So, just kind of thinking about some of the questions. Why do we expect papers to be organized that way? It's kind of nice for the reader because it's a very familiar kind of pattern and organization for them to read, because you're like, the introduction kind of slowly brings them to what your thesis statement is. Like you're kind of just slowly drawing them in to what your thesis statement is, and then the body, you're telling them why your thesis statement's correct, and then in the conclusion you're kind of wrapping it up. So it's just kind of like a nice organized way to present the information to people. What are the benefits? Are there any negatives? The benefits, I guess, of kind of having this formula for writing an essay is, you can pretty much go about writing any of the 10 essays using this formula. So that's a benefit. You don't have to figure out like, okay, what I do here, what should I do here? It's all very formulaic. Some of the negatives, I don't know. I really like writing essays, so I can't think of any negatives. But I guess some negatives would be that it might be kind of boring to write this way because it's very formulaic. And then what happens when you turn an essay or turn writing an essay into, like, you wait till the last minute? Like if it's due at midnight, you start writing it at 11 p.m. That backfires in a lot of ways. I know because I've done it. Uh, you forget to do spell check, or if you remember to do spell check, sometimes you can spell words correctly, and the grammar software doesn't pick it up. So it actually happened recently. I turned something in for my doctoral program, and uh, it was something like the line was like of the research, uh, and instead it just said like of research. Yeah, like it didn't get picked up by any of the grammar software as being incorrect. But you can tell, like when you go to read it, I didn't proofread it because instead of the research presented, it just said of research presented. Like it was just you could tell I like left out a word and then didn't catch it because I waited too long, tried to turn it all in at once, and then it wasn't proofread properly. So don't do that. uh, and then how does formulaic writing intersect with creativity? Does make creativity a little bit hard because it's very formulaic. But when you think of like your favorite TV show, sometimes TV shows are very formulaic. Like if you watch the first season of The Flash, like the superhero Flash, uh, it's really formulaic because it's like, okay, new villain with a superpower. The Flash runs into him the first time, loses, maybe runs into him a second time, loses, figures out a plan. The plan usually involves the Flash running faster than he's ever ran before. So then he runs faster than he ever has ran before and beats the villain. And it just kind of ends. I rarely see them actually take the supervillain away to jail at the end of the Flash. It just kind of ends. And then next week there's a new villain with a new superpower that the Flash has to figure out. So it's kind of really formulaic, and you'll see once you start noticing it, you'll notice there's a lot of TV shows where it's kind of formulaic. Like even Walking Dead, it's kind of maybe like for a while because there's so many seasons of it, but for a while it's like okay, a little bit of zombie danger, a bunch of talking about how the world is different and just kind of like just reflecting on how things are now versus how they were, and then at the end bunch of zombies. It was like that for there was like a season where that's what they did every episode. uh Same thing if you ever watch Attack on Titan or Attack of the Titans. It's that anime one with like the giants they call titans, and it pretty much followed the same formula of Walking Dead, where there'd be a titan or a giant at the beginning, not a huge attack, but enough to kind of start the show off with some action, and then a lot of talking about stuff and backstories, and then at the end a bunch of giants or titans showing up. um so it was funny. It's like you'd think it would be two completely opposite shows, but if you just switch giants out with zombies, you have the same show. So I think I ruined all those shows for everyone. So tips on writing an outline for an essay. So topic sentences, they kind of give you clarity, or it kind of gives the essay clarity. You want to include I mentioned this a little bit before. I tend to get ahead of myself on these PowerPoints sometimes, so I apologize for that because I already mentioned transition sentences. So you want to include transition sentences and phrases to signal the reader that there's a switch in tone or topic. Uh, and so you want to kind of have like a transition sentence where it's like, you can use phrases like additionally, therefore, as a result, consequently, just something to kind of help transition to like a new topic. Because you'll have your thesis, and then each sentence has a topic, so you kind of need to transition from one topic to another without it being too jarring or anything for the reader. And then make sure everything you say is linking back to your thesis statement. If you have any sentences that don't pertain to the thesis, they're not relevant. So this happens a lot. Sometimes you get some really good information, you want to include it, but it doesn't really relate that well to the thesis, but it's like a really good quote or like a really good tidbit of information, and you want to have it in the paper, but it just doesn't fit the thesis. So you end up having to get rid of it. That happens to me a lot, where I get some new information that sounds really cool and I want to include it, but then I can't because it's just too off topic. So let's see. The second part two is going to be really short because we're not in class. So assignments this week here, instead of on the PowerPoint, we'll just kind of go over to this week's module, because I usually find that's the easiest way, because sometimes between when I make the PowerPoint during Christmas vacation or winter holiday vacation, between the time I make it and now, a lot of stuff changes. So I have the slides in there, but sometimes they're not as accurate. So this week we just kind of have our discussion, and then the assignment here, the break it down. So go into here. So for this one, you need to read the student essay that's provided here. Preferably read it a couple of times, and then kind of look at how it's organized. And then open up this breakdown worksheet and address each point of the assignment. So that's pretty much it. Not anything too intense yet. So that's good. Let's see. Okay, so let's see. Went over the break it down worksheet. Like I planned maybe we'd go over this in class, but since we don't have class in person, we're not really gonna break into groups and work on this. So, uh, but I guess keep in mind, instead of like a group discussion, just kind of keep in mind what pitfalls did you see and where is room for improvement when you're looking at that essay. And that's pretty much it for this week. Make sure you turn in your assignment. Make sure you do your discussion. And we're about halfway through. We're in week 7. So next week I have to do a participation check and everything. So make sure you get anything that hasn't been turned in. Try to get that turned in. Everyone's doing really good. So no worries there about filling out the participation check. And I'll see everyone back here later. Have a good one. And next week, it better not snow or rain or anything, because I want to have class in person. There's so many cool like discussions about writing and stuff we could have had today if the weather would have cooperated. But yeah, after driving a couple miles to pick up my daughter, I can't in good conscience have asked anyone to drive today because they said it was gonna be bad, and then today when like nothing happened most of the day, I'm like, oh man, the weatherman was wrong. And now it got pretty bad this afternoon, so I'm glad we made the right call, and everyone's staying home and staying safe. And I'll talk to everyone next week.